knife fights are not like,
Yeah.
something flashes around and you do some kung fu move and
Yeah.
everybody's on the floor. It's not like you think it's going to be. It's
Yeah.
not like the guy pulls a knife, shows you the knife, and then you got to move around and do some, Chuck Norris move or something. It's just simply the world doesn't work that way. Most people train from the aspect of the knife is already out, you've seen it, and you kind of recognize some level of attack that they're coming
Yeah.
at. But I mean, if you're, I would say that should be 1% of your training. I mean, everyone has a plan until you get punched in the mouth, but nobody has a plan after you've been stabbed in the eye.
Right. Yeah.
The 99% of it should be stopping the guy ever getting the knife, recognizing they got a knife, knowing your position, feeling your space, understanding what things you can use to hit their hands with or their head. That's good. I mean, once a knife's involved, we're no longer talking about a punch up. Where somebody might end up kicking you in the head. I mean, we're talking about someone trying to kill you. So knife fighting is this sort of like idealistic, people watching the internet saying, I would never do that in a knife fight. I'm saying, if that guy's already got the knife out, I've already made a huge mistake.
Yeah.
So a lot of your training should be on recognizing that they have the posturing for a knife, that they have a knife on them that you can visibly see, or a knife that you can't see, or anything, right? I know if you're not pushing yourself into really violent attacks and timings and especially multiple attackers and things like that, how it can happen, then you're putting yourself in the same bracket as the guy who only grapples without a knife, because you literally cannot conceive of what it's actually really. Your brain does not have the capacity probably to conceive of the environment fully. It's like, how do you walk if you've never seen anyone walk? What I call is when you move into fight consciousness, your mind is only really capable of, in a stress environment, of dealing with the level of stress that you've put it under. Okay, so the higher the stress you put it under, the more your mind is going to start to adapt to that type of environment. But without that, you're playing at knife fighting for the purpose of understanding it, but you're playing at it, right? And if you want to play deeper at it, you have to go into pressure testing, if you like. Unless you're a 20-year vet in sort of knife fighting training or something like that, most people's reactions are going to be that, right? Even if they've had some training. So really, it's should you gear your training towards one of those responses and dealing with that? Yeah, probably in some way. I mean, because it's probably in the short amount of time that you have to train in knife fighting. Should you sort of like mobilize those responses? Yeah, not a bad idea. I mean, if someone pulls a knife, punch them in the face, kick them in the groin, do whatever, do anything before they even get a chance to use the knife on. When people see you doing, like I did a drill the other day, I put it out, where I'm against the wall, someone's continuously doing a poking type stab at me, and I'm moving up and down the wall from sitting to standing, and I'm teaching that class. Now, in the initial drill, I'm only escaping, okay, just feeling what my instincts are telling me to do and kind of like moving with that instinct into a more comfortable position if possible, or if I'm moving into an uncomfortable position, starting to make that a comfortable position somehow, right? The concept of the drill is not that I wish to move up and down the wall and trying to avoid while someone's poking me with a knife. That is not why I'm doing the drill. The concept of the drill is to put myself in an environment. What if I hit the wall and a guy tries to stab me once? Maybe twice, maybe 3 times, maybe 5, maybe 20, right? What happens in my moment if I'm on gravel and I slip to the ground against the wall?
It can happen to anybody.
He doesn't stop the drill. He just carries on stabbing me, right? In the real life. And also, you're putting yourself into uncomfortable environments to make them comfortable. If you're an Olympic sprinter, and you train for years to get in those blocks, and you're going to go 100 yards as fast as you can with all of your training, with all your breathing and everything else. And just as you set into the blocks, they change the race to a 10,000 yard, and you have to do it backwards and blindfolded.
Yeah.
Right? Now, one of them's going to win that race, but it's not going to be probably the most trained. It will probably be the most adaptable. You can be a specialist, or you can be a robustist. Okay.
Yeah.
And I would sooner be a robustist who has capability in lots of different environments than a specialist who really hones down to one specific thing, hoping that that will happen. Because it's not going to happen. Choose why you're training in Systema.
Yeah.
Right? If you're training for health and fitness and, you know, mental attitudes and you know, discovering relaxation within yourself and blah, 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 then I can't think of a better way of spending your time.
Right.
Right? There's simply no, I mean, I love it, you love it. There's no better way of exploring yourself, right? But if you're training to use this in a potentially deadly situation, then put yourself at least in simulation in potentially deadly situations, you know, and see how to make it effective, not whether it is effective or not. There is no saving you. There's no Systema does not save you, or Tai Chi, or Kung Fu, or
Silat,
or
Silat, or Kali.
Anything, right? You save you.
Yeah.
Right? And you look at somebody down the line doing, you know, so slow soft work knife techniques on, you know, if they're explaining something and showing some concept, fine. But if they've never really been in the situation Vladimir's been in, you can't just say, well, Systema works. You could say Vladimir works because he's been in a bunch of life and death situations, and this is how he developed his way of surviving through these concepts, right? But if you haven't been in that, then you can't really say that. You can't say that.
Yeah.
But you can put yourself in a highly stress simulated environments until you can say, well, I feel a bit more comfortable here. You're pushing your conscious state more into what would have been autopilot.
Yeah.
Right? That you're starting to explore the boundaries of where instincts and cognition blend. Once you start to do that, you start to realize that you can be aware of a lot more things than you might have thought you were.
Yeah.
Okay. Because again, it's only context based. You know, I'm only capable of conceiving what I've conceived.
Yeah.
Right. So by pushing the drill and trying to sort of open up what, I guess if I was to say how do you drill these things? First thing to do is watch yourself. Just see what you do naturally. If I was to walk out and you're looking at your phone and suddenly a speeding car sort of beeps its horn, there's a certain part of that you are certainly not conscious of as you start to become aware of the car, how your body's moving out of the way of it, or freezing, right? Yeah. But you can push your consciousness into that part.
Yeah.
Right? And you can start to ring alarm bells much earlier. You can observe yourself doing things and guide it. Right?
Yeah.
So that's the idea of the drills, to observe yourself and then start to guide those observations. What you might be doing might seem impractical to another group, but it doesn't mean it is.
Sure.
But there's also a danger of training in a way that's impractical, that if you don't test it, that you might believe is working.
Yeah.
Right?
You're deluding yourself in some ways.
Yeah, basically. I mean, you know, that, you know, I kind of joked before about the, you know, the cult of relaxation, and you can easily fall into that. Like, example, doing that drill against the wall, you need to be extremely relaxed. But if you're so relaxed that the guy can just throw you from one position to another, then, I mean, there may be some value in that if you explore it. But there also may be a tremendous amount of invaluable information in there that you could carry on training in if nobody tries to throw you around. You can have all the skill in the world, but if you're not capable of using it, then what's the point? Right?
Yeah.
So you can train for all the skillful this, that, and the other. But if you can't control yourself under stress, then the skill is never going to exhibit itself, ever. The real skill to me is to generate what I guess Vlad would call power.
Yeah.
The power is to contain yourself. right? To not allow yourself, not allow the situation to move you out of the potential of your skill. All of the training, the knife work against everything we've been talking about, is really not about, can I do this? Should I do that? If a guy says on the internet that I should punch him in the face at this point, none of that has any relevance if you're not learning how to control yourself under stress. And controlling yourself under stress means that you're basically fighting against, millions of years of evolution, which we are capable of doing. That's the beauty of having, a human mind, is that you can observe yourself.
You can go against your programming to some extent.
Beyond your programming.
Yeah.
And I can't think of another animal that does that. Because other animals may have fighting strategies. They don't have arts. Right?
Yeah.
And art means that you're able to sort of like observe the world in a way beyond your conditioning. Right? And I think that's where power is.